They came from throughout the country to celebrate the biggest event in the history of this little town in Upper Michigan. And this videotape is a chronicle of that event. Welcome to the Mass City Area Centennial Celebration. Mass City sits in what many consider to be the heart of God's country, Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This community boasts a rich heritage dating back to its founding in 1899. And even though the boom times fueled by copper and timber are past, the area still embodies a quality of life that is becoming more and more rare in the United States. And if you listen carefully, you can still hear the echoes of the copper boom that exploded out of these hills so long ago. And you can still see the heritage of farming the land and lumbering in these vast forests, and the railroads that made it all possible. So it's not surprising that the descendants of those early settlers decided to get together and celebrate the Mass City Area Centennial back in July of 1999. But the celebration actually began with the harvesting of a 200-year-old pine tree to symbolize lumbering then and now.
Okay, today is June 20th, Father's Day, and here we are out in Ottawa National Forest. I don't know what section we're in, Carl, but section 32, and we got this big tree here that we're going to use for a centennial log.
You'll be seeing this tree again in the big parade. Apparently, at some point in time, the tree survived a lightning hit and could be considered symbolic of the survival spirit of the Mass City area pioneers. Let's fast forward now to Friday, July 2nd, where people are registering for all the events. Registration committee included James Mitchie, Geraldine Antala, Ellen Carlson, and Jill Burke. During registration, tastes and smells of home greeted the visitors because the Wainola church ladies were serving coffee and bakery, and a pasty lunch was served by Sills of Mass City. Saturday dawned with a steady rain. And naturally, organizers were more than a little worried about how the weather might affect the parade and other outside activities. But nonetheless, spirits remained high, and the VFW pancake breakfast took place as scheduled. The U.S. Postal Service got in the act by offering souvenir pictorial cancellations of this special stamp. The canceled stamps are from the 1900 series commemorating the dawn of the 20th century. A logo contest was held, and among all the entries, Don Keiko King's was judged the best, and here it is. Wait a minute, there's Fast Eddie Russo, who suggested the idea for the Mass Centennial 5-mile run, roll, and walk. Our cameraman asked Eddie if he had ever been to Russo's bar.
Yes, in fact, that bar used to be in the old hotel where I was raised my first year. My diapers were changed right on that bar.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Where's the last race you've had outside of Ontonagon County?
Well, we did the one yesterday. A week ago, I did a fans 24-hour ultramarathon in Minnesota with 120 runners. I ran 106 miles and finished in third place overall.
106 miles, he said. And even though Fast Eddie was 3 months short of 60 years old when the race was run, he finished 4th overall. Here are some shots of registration for the big race. Everyone who participated received a hand-painted shirt from Gail Kocher and her group at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. And everybody also got pretty wet. A country general store was set up for fundraising purposes. By the way, there's one of those Gail Kocher shirts right there. There's Janice Lukery, treasurer of the Centennial Committee, helping out in the store. And one of the two co-chair people of the Centennial Committee, Eileen Holmstrom, answering a few questions. Fundraising was an important part of the success of the event, and here are 3 fundraisers. They included this cookbook of treasured recipes designed by a committee which included Kay Lukery, Gail Maloney, Ellen Carlson, Sandy Wodela, Shirley Kempinen, and Helen Sullivan. This quilt, sewn by Sue Hines, was raffled off, and Andy Hendrickson designed the Centennial calendar with the help of Dean Juntanen. Here's Dean and Helen Toivonen working on another fundraiser, the Centennial Sentinel newsletter. There was lots of interest in this photo display in the temporary Centennial Museum. An interesting look back, and a great way to spend a rainy Saturday morning. And rainy it certainly was. Things look pretty threatening about now as parade organizers hope to start the parade on time. People covering up, trying to keep their floats dry. And in fact, the parade was delayed 1 hour, waiting for the weather to clear. Finally, the skies began to clear and the parade was ready to begin. It was a special surprise when unnamed persons caused black smoke to billow from the smokestacks of the old Mass Consolidated Mining Company, a heart-grabbing vision that brought tears to some parade watchers' eyes. And so it was time for the parade to begin, with the VFW Post number 467 Honor Guard. Followed by the Dare float.
Looking good.
And Senator Don Coivisto, who began his political career right here in Mass City. That's Bill Fivey on the bagpipes. And appropriately enough, he's being followed by the Scottish float, where among others you see Ruth McFarlane, Secretary of the Centennial Committee. Here are motorcyclists Bill Carla, Pete Lemoyne, and Gail and Roy Holmstrom. Next up, the Manuel Savila Blacksmith float. We had 3 groups on horses in the parade, including the Savilas, the Carlsons, and the Stottingers. And with that many horses, you better have a darn good pooper scooper. And we did. John Scales, an American engineer working in Israel, believe it or not. He was a very proactive pooper scooper. But his main concern was the flamboyant disposal of road apples. The Lucarillas were one of the first families to settle in the Mass City area back in 1905. And these are the great-grandkids of that settling family. In fact, there's Mary Lucarilla. Next up, distinguished longtime residents. This float sponsored by Greenland Township. I think I see Andy Hendrickson in there somewhere. Here's the class of '54, Mass City High School. And you can hear the Ontonagon area high school band in the background. Ken Risenen carries the original drum from the Mass School Band. Let's listen. There's band director Jessica Most. Here's the Help Support Our Children's Tomorrow. It's the Mass Greenland Youth Activities Committee float. Raising funds to build a playground for the kids. Next up is the post office float. Longtime postmaster August Hootery is there riding in the cab. In the back, Ruth Bramer, George Ahola, and Centennial Committee member Cheryl Coffey, who is also the current Mass City postmaster. Here's the Mass City Resource Center float. Al Tureen driving a truck and hauling 100 years of Mass City mining history. Here's a fact I bet you didn't know. 400 pounds of copper are needed to make a profit from 20 tons. But if you got lucky, you found mass copper, and here's a piece about 1,900 pounds. The mines in this area needed 20 pounds of copper per ton of rock. Here's a Centennial oak log, an example of mine timber. By the way, there's Al's dad, Mine Inspector Bill, keeping an eye on Al. Followed by an old Rockland fire truck, 1949 Ford, which has been in service for 50 years. And here comes the Mass High School class of 1950. A couple of good-looking cheerleaders there. A little closer shot of the reunion float featuring happy people celebrating the Mass City area centennial. You hear in the background the Ark family. What are they singing about? An ark full of arks. Every centennial celebration needs one of those, right? Let's get a look at both sides of this big boat as the parade continues.
Here come some long way visitors. Hello, guys.
Our cameraman talking to the crowd as we await Mass High School class of 1956. Arnie Henderson from the Centennial Committee is represented along with some classmates. Then it's the Mass Greenland Rockland Little League team, which went 12-1 this year in the 1999 season. Not bad. Followed by the Mass City Pony League team, sponsored by Citizens State Bank. And the Ontonagon Pony League, sponsored by Peninsula Graphics. There's the Peninsula Graphics van. And here comes the Oliver Aho family, descendants of Jacob and Maria Aho, early pioneer residents. Next, here's Bill Antela driving the family's 1924 tractor and pulling the Rockland Masonic Lodge float. Number 108. Looks like that meeting has come to order. And they're followed by the Ontonagon Mountaineers, Drum and Bugle Corps, reformed after years in time for the centennial. Let's give a listen. Carol Milu and Elsa Robb carrying a Finnish banner, followed by Centennial Committee member Phyllis Wiesinger and Francis Wildeman. All part of a float from the Knights and Ladies of Kaliva, dedicated to preserving Finnish heritage since 1898. Next up is the Kangas Wiesinger family, walking and biking and rollerblading their way through the Mass City area Centennial Parade. They've even got a little gerbil on wheels. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, there's trouble. Wheel trouble on the gerbil float. Probably gonna have to carry it the rest of the way, I guess. Hurry up. There she goes. Here's an authentic steam engine driven by John Brunton. John lives 3 miles away. Took him 3 hours to get to this parade. Next is John Milborn driving an antique tractor from the Ontonagon County Fair Board. Here comes an antique auto driven by Ricky McKay and owned by John Savila. And this antique pickup, once owned by Paul Antela. Right after that, we've got Alvin Carla with his antique kerosene engine. And here's the Lake Linden Hubble High School Marching Band, their second parade today. They had to play in the Copper Country earlier. See if they've got enough energy to blow us a tune. Next is the Copper Country Farm Bureau float with 3 members, including parade chairman Helen Sullivan. There she is. And that's followed by the slowest tractor in Ontonagon County. That's right, it's John Turpinen driving his John Deere, and he competes against others to see how slow he can drive his tractor without stalling. Still too fast for the clown, though, who, by the way, is Paul Lucarilla. Next up is Laurie's Market. Unfortunately, a little rain damage on the sign. And remember that pine tree we cut down earlier in the video? Well, here it is again, part of the Mass City Area Centennial Celebration. It's the Centennial Pine, truck driven by Brad Holmstrom. Logged by Carl Wiesinger and Sons. Next is the Adventure Coppermine Shaft House replica, driven by Dick Whitten. And that's followed by the North Country Snowmobile Club float, pulling a groomer. Here's a birthday wish from Rockland. Happy 100th birthday to Mass City. This is my personal favorite. A pizza stuck to a rhinoceros horn. And it's the Pluchak Brothers float. Pizza and tires. Free coffee, whether you buy pizzas or tires. Tires are rhino tough, but not the pizzas. Here's a pretty cool one. See in the bed of this truck, there's a deer back there. There he is, see? And he's going to stand up. There he is. That's a deer standing there. And right in back is a deer blind. Oh, okay. And that's Koski's Camp One Shot deer blind. That's a good one. Just a few shots of the onlookers, parade goers. You can see that the day turned out pretty well. Sun shining, no No problems. And keeping the peace is Ontonagon County Sheriff Jerry Kitzman. There's Jerry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing? Very good.
Now we're up to the UP 105 Superior Country float. And that's followed by a rain-damaged Dishna Creek Lodge float. The rain didn't dampen Dale Koski's spirits as he favors us with a tune. And there's Ray Koski's granddaughter, Candace Ducharme, twirling a baton. And Smokey the Bear on hand, helping to prevent forest fires. And catching a ride. Here's Robert Lukery driving the Mountain Lions float and serving from one century to the next. There's Stenson's baseball team, understandably proud of their back-to-back championships. Speaking of champions, here are sports champions throughout the years. Golf and horseshoes, basketball, running, Little League, all kinds of sports. And congratulations to our champs. And here comes the class of 1960, represented by Jim and Darlene Hakinen and Goldie the dog.
Oh, he loves pictures. He's been waiting for this parade.
Here's the Adventure Artisans, Mass City's local theater group. And at the time, they were working on The Mouse That Roared. The Ontonagon County Road Commission weighed in with some antique road building equipment. This is a 1913 Austin Western road grader, one of the first purchased by Ontonagon County. And here are some later purchases, no doubt a bit more efficient. By the way, County Engineer Mike Maloney is the grandson of Clarence Maloney, lifelong resident of Mass City. Here's a truck driven by Ron Moylanen and pulling Sauna and Polka Saturday Night in Mass City, featuring the children and grandchildren of Ray and Bertha Smith. Let's listen in. Here's the Greenland Township Fire Department, well represented today. Here comes retired fireman Reno Peninsula, being honored for years of service to the Mass City area.
I'm the oldest fireman in the county. I'm 91 years old.
35 years old, or 35 years in the fire department.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey there.
Fire Chief Kevin Patina and his crew were very involved in the Centennial activity. Here's Kevin and his merry men marching in their blue shirts at the end of the parade. There's a couple people we didn't see in the parade, but we'd like to acknowledge. Courtney Lentowich, granddaughter of parade co-chair Mary Lou Tureen and great-great-granddaughter of Louise Desormeaux. And Uncle Sam, better known as Jay Lucarilla. And even though the parade was over, the celebration continued with the craft show and banquet at the school. Fire department sponsored big dance Saturday night. Before the dance, a huge roast beef banquet catered by Susie Johnson and Marion Patana for 600 people. Sunday, a pancake breakfast sponsored by the Mountain Lions Club and the golf outing. But right now, let's go to the craft show. And here we are. Tell you what, let's have our cameraman Audie Bitchnauer show us around.
Excuse me. Here we are, a little bit of everything, including woodworking. Hi, sweetie. How are you? Pretty child. And here are some of the other local crafts. A little bit of everything here today.
So, there are all kinds of nothing
How's it been going today for you guys?
Not too bad.
Slow or good? Pretty good. Beautiful big amethyst obelisks. Where did the big amethyst obelisks come from? Argentina? Where? Uruguay. Beautiful. How's it been going for you today? Pretty good? Selling some stuff? Average, No dogs allowed in here. Sorry.
I bet you that's true.
I know, and I told my neighbors that I always listen to this one. That was good. I was looking at her really close, and
So that's a pretty good look at the craft show held at the Mass City Town Hall. 24 tables with a variety of crafts, and it was organized by Eddie Mustinen. Nice job, Eddie. But you know what? This group looks like it's ready for a party. People got down in the Mass City Town Hall at the big dance, sponsored by the fire department and featuring Easy Money, who played the night away. This was the second of two dances for the Centennial. The other a street dance Friday night featuring DJ Wild Bill from Y101. Both dances going all hours, but some managed to make it to the golf tournament on Sunday. There's Earl Palmer, who co-chaired the golf event. Truall sponsored the event, and they were represented by Wayne Malala. Ernie Toivonen, co-chairman of the golf tourney, pictured here with Janice and John Kilmar. It is true that everyone had a great time at the Mass City area Centennial celebration, but perhaps the most important part of the Centennial was the Veterans Memorial dedication at Greenland, which took place Sunday at noon. About 600 people attended the long-awaited unveiling of the Veterans Memorial at the Maple Grove Cemetery. Some brought folding chairs, while most stood throughout the 45-minute service, which began in typical July 4th fashion, overcast with threatening rain, and in less than a half hour, sweltering heat and high humidity. This didn't deter those who had come to see a Veterans Memorial that was at last built, and to be dedicated to those who served in the armed forces in defense of our country. This project had been long on the minds of the citizens of Greenland Township and finally came to fruition with the Centennial events that took place over the weekend.
Left wheel.
Gene Schertz, Greenland Township Supervisor and Chairperson of the Veterans Memorial Committee.
This is a very special occasion for us, and it's a privilege for me to be here, and we're honored that you could all attend to help us dedicate this monument to the men and women who gave of themselves. And we're gathered here to dedicate this memorial to all veterans, patriotic men and women, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, who made sacrifices that we might enjoy the privileges of freedom and a democratic way of life. This is a great day for Greenland Township, a great day for all of us as we come together to dedicate this monument.
Yvonne Blake sang the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming. Oh, see does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and the home of the brave.
Order.
Pastor Olaf Rankinen, native son of Greenland Township, gave the invocation.
We assemble here today to unveil a memorial plaque to honor our comrades and forebears. Upon the threshold of a new millennium, we are keenly aware of the struggles of veterans, our friends and ancestors who will lie at rest here in Maple Grove. May they rest in peace, in God's peace, awaiting the resurrection day. As a veteran and a retired pastor, I want to assure you that our Christian faith does not leave us stranded. In our sorrow, we believe in the resurrection from the dead, the founder and savior of our faith, says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. And now may I close specifically with the words of invocation. And these are a reading from the President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, delivered on November 19, 1863 at the Gettysburg Monument. These are some of the closing verses, and some of you have this memorized, joined in with me in the words of Abraham Lincoln. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus so far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great remaining task before us, that from these dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Next to speak was Vietnam veteran and VFW member Bud Hookey, who also serves on many other service clubs in the Mass City area.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to be asked to participate in these services today. You know, this dedication that we share today carries a message to our members and to our entire community, that we shall not forget those who serve their country with honor and dedication. This is the message each of us should carry from here, a message of life, a message of hope, a message of commitment. In that message, we will find the answers to our questions, and in those answers, the strength to rededicate ourselves to our commitment and to the noble cause they sustained so well for so long. In conclusion, I would like to bring you a reading that was in the local paper on Memorial Day, which I feel is appropriate at any time. Awake. Wake up, Private. They will be here soon. Colonel, wake up. It's Memorial Day. Somebody poke the lieutenant over there and make sure he's awake too. They're celebrating Memorial Day, and they will be here with small American flags pushed through the grass and earth on top of us. They will pledge that not one of us here died in vain. They will deliver to us the sweet and enduring promise that the United States of America shall not perish from the earth. They will be here soon, our sons and daughters, our husbands and wives, our mothers and fathers, our brothers and sisters. They have not forgotten. Thank you.
Next, Richard Fezzi presided over the unveiling of the memorial.
Comrades, attention.
Orders. We will unveil the monument at this time.
Should mention right here that Al and Debbie Keiko did the masonry and actually fashioned this monument. Great work, Al and Debbie.
Before us is a tribute to the men and women from our community who have served in the United States Armed Forces. We honor them. We extend to them, to their memory, our deepest respect. Comrade Chaplain, you ask the divine blessing.
Post Chaplain Ed Kangas reciting the final prayer.
Let's pray. O thou Almighty God, guide these men and women we honor through every day and night. Give them unbounded strength and courage to continue their efforts for lasting peace. May their victory, a true service to all humanity, give them growing faith in thy teachings. In reverent humility we ask these blessings. Amen.
Please, man. Squat. Put arm. Go. Aim. Fire. Go. Aim. Fire. Go. Aim. Fire. Ready. Great. It's hot. Freeze, men. Home.
And Geraldine Antela presented a beautiful floral wreath with these words.
To the commander of Post 4167 in Mass City, I want to present this floral wreath in memory and dedication to the VFW and what you have done for all of us and for our country. This is given by my family, my husband, my daughter, and my son-in-law. To you, Richard, I want you to place this before the memorial.
And a blessing from Mass City's own Reverend Michael Laco.
The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious to us. The Lord look upon us with favor and give us peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. And now may we go in peace to serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Finally, a stirring rendition of America the Beautiful from Yvonne Blake. And as the honor guard marched away, signaling an end to the ceremony, thoughts turned to the next event in the Mass City area's centennial, the big picnic at the fairgrounds in Greenland. In fact, I think I hear the band playing already. Yep, that's the Keweenaw Band, all right, performing for the folks at a picnic which featured kids' games and sports events, dinner catered by Sills, drawings for prizes, lots of music, and even a fire department demonstration. But let's let the pictures tell the story while we listen.
I got it.
We got one from Mass City, Wesley Corey. Post Office Road, Mass City, Michigan.
Band. Let's hear it. Art Moylanen was also there with his accordion. By the way, before we go, we'd like to acknowledge Arnie and Ray Henderson, who organized the sports events at the picnic, and also Debbie Keiko, that's her in the red, who organized the children's games. And in case all the activities surrounding the Mass City area Centennial celebration wasn't enough, there were 4 separate guided tours provided. Here's Richard Whiteman, who took us into the New Caledonia mine.
It was originally discovered and worked in the 1860s and worked up until about the 1880s, was shut down, acquired by Calumet and Hecla in the 30s, worked for a few years, and then it was worked most extensively from 1950 to 1958 by Calumet and Hecla. This is the number 4 adit. There's 3 more tunnels up the side of the hill. Those were all early workings, not the 1950s, but the 1800s. This tunnel goes in about 200 feet, and then we hit the Knowlton Lode. And then that tunnel continues all the way down to Mass Sea Shaft underground, 1.5 miles of tunnels and working.
Meantime, John Neff was conducting tours of the Adventure Mine in Greenland.
This is a layout of the inside of the mountain, of Adventure Mountain here. And these are veins of copper that are in the mountain. This is a shaft. Number 2 shaft goes down 1,300 feet. Each 100 feet is a level. This is called an adit.
A what?
An adit, A-D-I-T. If an opening goes down in the ground, it's a shaft. If it goes into the mountain, or if it goes horizontal, it's called an adit. And this was all hand drilled beginning 1870. So they would use.
And Mary Lucarilla took us through the Lucarilla House of History.
And Alma Lucarilla taught school for like 30 years in Mass City. And when they tore the old school down,
is this her
they
right here?
asked her if she wanted some of these things. That's her first grade class.
In 1956.
1956-57, John Wesson and this little boy here gave us this picture. He had it blown up by computer. And then he gave us this. It's in Elma's handwriting. All the kids in that class.
Oh, how neat.
And that's the old Mass rockets.
Yeah.
Green noise. And if they took a trip like to Hancock, that was a big deal. So they would always get souvenir pillows. This one says Hancock.
Well, that was probably a half a day to get there and half a day to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, probably took the train.
Even 40 years ago when we went, it was a major trek. You checked the oil and checked the tires, and now you just get in the car.
And of course, this old
Leather hide.
They don't even make them anymore.
Was
like
that-
Oh, Philco radio.
And this is all set up for a tea party. These dishes came from Tiny Mullala. Elma gave them to her for a wedding shower. And so then when Tiny died, they came back to Elma, and so she uses them here. And I picked this up on our trip in an antique place in Indiana.
Isn't that nice?
And Elma loved birds and flowers, so we thought that would match pretty good. Yeah, it looks cute. And they heated the place with a stove that sat right there with the chimney, with the stove. And Mr. Cotton used to sit in that chair all the time and fix the shoes and listen to the radio.
And Bill Tureen took us on a tour of his rock and mineral shop. Well, all good things come to an end, and so did the Mass City Area Centennial Celebration. A year in preparation, planned out by Centennial Committee members and a host of volunteers, but it all came together, and it was a great party.
Thank you. It's been a good time. We enjoyed it. And somebody says we're going to do it again next year. So we'll celebrate 101 next year. Just kidding.